Hi, I'm Chris. I'm on the design team at Teeter, and I'm here to do an unboxing comparison between the Teeter X3 and the Exerpeutic 4528. We've done a couple of these now, and I think it's really helpful for the consumer to see what happens when you open up a box and the comparison between the two units. There's a lot of differences from the quality of the components, the packaging, even the way they're shipped to make sure the product arrives not damaged. Most of these items now are purchased online. I think when you see the component difference and even the size of the units, you'll be kind of interested at the differences between the Teeter brand and comparative items in the marketplace. Teeter has been in continuous production since 1981. They've focused their messaging on full inversion and cycling, and everything they've done as a company in design and manufacturing has been to promote and push that messaging forward. When you look at a company like Exerpeutic, they're actually in the third iteration of their company. They started off as Life Gear, they transitioned to Ironman, and now they're doing this new brand. The parent company is Paradigm Health. And every time that they've adjusted their product, they're increasing the value cost proposition, which is very, very beneficial for the consumer. But at Teeter, we believe that they're reducing the key features of what really makes the inversion experience unique. And as we get into the product comparison later, I'll show you that difference. So let's get after it now. So we've taken the straps off, and now I'd like to open up the product. And this is exactly as the product came to us. You can say, here's the Teeter one. And then here is the Exerpeutic one. From the product design point, I see a few things right off the bat, just with the way the product is packaged. You can see Teeter has our messaging on how to unbox the product. Any questions? Right on the top is our Start Here guide, which gives instructions, and also you can call if you need any help. There's predominantly cardboard inner packaging. With the Exerpeutic brand, you can see that they use a lot of foam. And from a personal point of view, every time I open a product like this, I just think, gosh, now I have to clean my house, because this stuff gets everywhere. And I have 2 kids, and they like to grab these things and break them and run around the house. It's interesting. What they do have is they do have the manual in the easy-to-reach spot, and they do have the parts kit blocked out pretty easily. Again, with the parts kit being in multiple pieces like that, I know that we're going to have some assembly to do. If we pull out the Teeter parts kit, you can see that there's 6 bolts here and 2 bolts here, and there's some wrenches. So we know that just from the components that need to be assembled standpoint, this one will be easier than this one. The Teeter item, the X3, has 9 components laid out. There's the 4 major ones: the bed structure, the main shaft, the A-frame, and the other major structure is these 3-hole hinges, which are fully assembled, but they're in the package. Those are the 4. Then there's a couple small accessories and handles that get bolted on. If you come to the Exerpeutic model, there are 22 parts that need to be assembled. And you see their main structure, the bed, is assembled. The A-frame is assembled except for the feet. It comes with the pivot point on. But you can see the main shaft, which is the most finicky thing, needs full assembly. If you look at the Teeter model, the Teeter model comes with the cups, the ratchet, the handle, the foot platform, all ready to use. At this stage, I think the funnest part will be to assemble them one at a time. Then you get to see how the process goes, and then you will get to we'll get to use, and we'll get to key differences between the product once assembled. Now that we've got the products together, I'd like to talk about the assembly. The key differences between the two is clearly the tools and the way that the assembly experience was designed from the start. With the Teeter product, we try to look at the whole experience you're going to have with every single nut and bolt and component that goes together. We do pre-fit product at the factory to make sure everything fits together, and then we utilize Allen heads and Allen screws for the majority of what the user puts together, actually for everything the user puts together. With this product, they utilized a Phillips screwdriver, they utilized this clamp, and then this little tomahawk wrench. The issue with all the bolts on this table is these things are just a nightmare to use. And as you're tightening and screwing, you're scratching the A-frame, you end up getting a brand new product that looks a little powder coat flaking off because you've been scratching it as you're trying to wrench these things together. The other key thing that I noticed on this product was the fitment of some of the components. This part here didn't fit together until we got weight on it, which maybe here nor there. The foot pieces went together relatively easily, but I know that I have to put a little more weight on them now to get them to suck in because the table's not flat. So there's just a couple little things. Also this part here, that putting the bed on the 3-hole hinge, you have to hold the bed up while you put these bolts on, and it might be difficult to do that if you have a sore back. When you're looking at this stuff, to me, you have to consider, when I get home, am I going to be able to put this together in my house comfortably and then feel confident you're going to get on and utilize it? I think they're both decent once they're finished from the assembly point, but I wish the process was a little quicker with the Exerpeutic. So now I want to go component by component, and we'll see what really makes the Teeter difference versus the competitive item. If you look, our ankle closure, which was assembled from the factory, went in very quickly and simply versus the Exerpeutic model. Let's start off at the bottom. Teeter has an adjustable foot platform, so you can have 2 height differences of shoes when you're inverting. The nice thing about that is you have less body slide as you suck into the cups when you rotate. This product does not have an adjustable foot platform at all. The cups on this item are sizably larger than what I've seen on competitive items in the past. There's still, they've done this really fun marketing thing called Airsoft, and later on I'm going to take one apart and show you what's on the inside, because I'm excited to see as well. I can feel that they seem soft from looking at them, but I know that they're not going to function anywhere near as nice as our foam molded cups. Our foam molded cups, you have the same size, front and back, designed to work and secure your ankles. They have a totally different model on the back, which tells me these are more expensive to make, so they use a different one on the back. The ratchet ankle closure is always the biggest difference, and especially with our premium Teeter item. This is our GL ankle closure, which is kind of cool in 2 ways. You push down, you pull up, right? And when you pull it open, you're about 16 and 12 inches away from the main shaft. With these competitive items, you push out and you have to reach way far out in order to get it. So this is probably 24 inches. The reason for that is it's a different system inside. This uses a pawl and like a ratchet system to open and close. This uses just a tooth on a end of a pole hitting, and you can even see them on the front, it hits these gears. It's not the end of the world, but the big difference is when you're inverted. This item has a GL lock inside, and let's see if this item does. If you invert past, will this... No, this doesn't. So they don't utilize a GL lock. If you invert past, you can hear it click. Ready? There, it clicked. If you invert to this angle, you cannot open the main shaft. We do that because we want the user to be secured when inverted to ensure they don't accidentally bump this and fall out of the table. With this item, you can open it at any time. Another interesting thing that may not seem like a big thing, but is the powder-coated main shaft with silk screening versus the sticker. The sticker seems like a fine solution, and we have stickers on our product. The issue with this component being sticker is that as you move it for users in and out of the main shaft for different heights, you adjust the pin and slide it in and out, you get a little bit of wear. And over time, these numbers will just wear completely away. As well, if you want to get into the actual construction of the main shaft, I can tell you that the steel that we use in this is way more robust than this product, so that just the steel alone is going to hold way more on our table. So there's a reason why they're making the steel smaller on their main shaft, and it's because it doesn't have to hold as much. But yet this is a 300-pound product. So how could they have a UL label with a 300-pound product and not be required to hold as much as ours? And it's kind of an interesting concept. They have shortened the A-frame, shortened the width, and then they've shortened the rotation. And as they played with all those metrics, their table only goes back, if you take this bar out, their table only goes back to about 80, maybe 70 degrees. When you don't invert fully on the main shaft and put all the weight on the main shaft, you can go with a slightly lighter wall thickness. But if you don't have an inversion table that inverts fully, what's the point of having an inversion table? So I would call this one more of a tilt table than an inversion table. So now we'll just jump in them and see how the size of these two units compare to me. I'm 6'2", I weigh about 200 pounds. So I have reasonably big ankles. And these cups kind of hold securely. It's harder to get out of them with an inverted position, which is good. I can feel it as you close the lock. They don't have micro adjustments. And I can definitely feel the pin mechanism as I move it. I do know that as I invert, because of the height difference here between my ankles, I'm going to watch my ankles. You're going to get this happening, which isn't a big deal, but when you're setting the table to rotate, having that foot slide changes the height of the user on the table, which changes the way you rotate. Now I'm on the table, and you can see my foot slide is going to be maybe a ½ an inch. All that's going to mean is that when I'm inverting, the table's set for me as a user, and I won't have a hard time coming back upright because I have more body weight on the other side of the pivot point. So the thing about this item is you can hear these little micro adjustments. It adjusts in about 1/4 inch to ½ inch increments. And I can feel that when I push down here, there's a mechanical lever system happening that pulls the teeth into disengaging position. So the key thing about our table is the base and the width and the height of it, which allow for a very stable platform when you're inverting in the full inverted position. We have spreader arms which hold the A-frame from slipping away. We have corner feet on the farthest corners of the table which create that stable platform. Then we have robotic bent and then welded connection points with bolt-through connections on the hinge plate. If you look at the competitive item, what they've done, which is interesting, they have one piece of tubing here, one piece of tubing here, and then a horizontal, which is welded. It looks like it's welded quite well. The issue with this kind of concept is that it's very hard to create alignment between the front feet. And you can get a lot of rocking and shifting because you are misaligned when you weld, the metal heats up and twists. So it's really difficult to keep that alignment. On our Teeter product, you don't have that because it's very stable. On the back, they did the same concept. The other thing they're doing is they're using the front leg to be the connection point for the foot, which is fine. But what happens is our base is like 29 inches. Theirs is 25 inches. So our A-frame base is 4 inches wider. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but for shipping and boxing and packaging and container loading, it does make a big difference in the amount of product you can get in a container. And then it creates a more expensive product to ship to the consumer. The benefit is that you're going to get a more stable platform to invert from with our product as compared to this item. But again, when you look at that alignment thing on the front and back, the way that they're welding requires a lot of extra effort to keep everything square and parallel once the unit's finished. Another thing with our A-frame is that to stop the user when you're inverting, we use our trusty tether strap, which connects to the center point of the table and will stop the rotation of the table. You can set it for any height from 20 degrees up to 60 degrees. This item, they're using a concept called a steel bar with a hand grip. So the steel bar goes in these 3 predetermined holes in the back. So the downside with this concept is you don't have micro adjustment between the different angles. But here's the most interesting part. When you invert, they have changed their position of their crossbar to be much higher up, which then stops the table, again, in the inverted position. And they are doing a forward-backward bumper, which we do on our product as well, which is good. The downside of their bumpers is you can just pull them off. It was actually an assembly step to put them on. Ours come on already. But anyways, when you're in the inverted position, the thing about this bumper is it's stopping you from being able to actually hang free from the table, which is where I'd call this more of a tilt table than an inversion table. The other thing that they've done with their A-frame is they've integrated the 3-hole hinge system into the pivot point and the bed structure connection. On our table, the 3-hole hinge can be adjusted for different users and different widths of user. I can show you that later. But on this table, it's one and done. The challenge with that is that if you put a 300-pound guy on this, which the table says is rated 300 pound, And what's the max user? Let's see, 6'6". If you put that guy, his stomach will be out here, far beyond the pivot point, which means when he inverts, the table will go back very quickly. To me, I don't think I could offer a Teeter product without that 3-hole adjustment because it really does create a better user experience for every body size. When you look at the difference between a Teeter and a comparable item, being on the design team, what I'd ask you to look at is the quality of the design and the features that that design offers. The new X series bed has this 8-point floating suspension. It rotates when you move on it. It will compress and move with your body. It acts very much like a cushioned bed, but it doesn't stop your body from sliding when you're in a shallow angle or you're in an inverted position. These traction handles here are specifically designed so that as you are at a shallow angle, say 40 degrees, you can push on this and you can still get slide down the table. We have this built-in lumbar bridge that you can move to different settings. It allows you to have the lumbar isolating of the hips, creating more curvature in your lower back while you're at shallow angles. And then, this is actually one of my favorite parts, is that we have the handles, which are integrated into the A-frame, and they have an angle guide built into them, and also a front handle for helping board the table, and then the asymmetrical rear part of the handle that gives you a nice gripping surface at different angles and allows you kind of that training wheel aspect, but still gives it a nice design look. When you look at a competitive item, they're designing for cost and value and efficiencies, which is great. They're going to have a steel structured bed. They have a handle. They have the hinge system, and this product they actually put an upholstered bed on. When you lay on an upholstered bed and you sink into it, it inhibits your ability to slide down. So at shallow angles, this table is not going to function the same way as a Teeter would. And the other part about it is that this bed, if you take away this handle, we covered this earlier, it only inverts to 80 degrees. So you are still in contact with this bed, and at this angle you will slide because of the vinyl. But it's a different level of shallow angle decompression than what you'll experience on the Teeter product. So additionally with the padded bed, what is important to understand with these items, if you look at a Teeter, I can tell you that our tables weigh between 70 and 80 pounds. And all that weight is evenly distributed through the product. And you get a really robust bed support structure, the steel that supports the bed. You get a robust main shaft. The A-frame is heavy duty. When you look at a competitive item, they weigh about 70 pounds as well, 60 to 70 pounds. But the majority of the weight is in this plywood bed and this upholstery. And so that means that they're cutting out the weight in the key components, the steel. So you're going to end up with steel on this item that's thinner wall. We showed you that earlier in the video. You're going to end up with steel that isn't, they're not joining the A-frame on the base, so they're cutting out steel there. You're going to get a product that these work, but if you're using if your goal is to use it for 10, 15 years, which the majority of our customers do, and our UL rating is based on 15 years of use, if you're going to use the product that long, you want it to work for you every single time. You don't want it to work for the first week and then things start having issues, or for the first year. And what you can believe with a Teeter item is that the rotation and the movement will be the same 15 years from now as the day you buy it. So as I mentioned with the handles, our Teeter handle is designed so that you can feel, touch, grip anywhere on it, and it's part of the A-frame once it's assembled. This handle, it checks the box of delivering the value, a very large handle, so when you board you have something to grip, and when you're inverted you have something to grip. But what they're not doing is using the correct cap on the nut and leaving these exposed points, and you can actually cut yourself on the threads of these washers. I couldn't send this out the door as a Teeter product. Now I'm going to get on and show you how these things work, because it's one thing to talk about the features and the design cues, but let's talk about how they actually function. So I'm going to turn it sideways like this so you can see, and I'm going to take this bar out and assume, you could go to different angles. We'll lay it there. This table's set at 6'2", set for my height. So now I'm going to invert. I'm going to lift one hand up above my head, and I'll come back upright. And so the displacement's pretty good at this moment here. So now when I lift my other hand, I'm going to go down. But as I invert, I'm going to get down to the inverted position. And now this is as free as I can get. And if I try to rotate, I kind of feel like it's going to come back up. So the balance is actually not that bad on this item. But you can see, let's see if I can throw myself back up. And so now I could use the handles. So I am a relatively evenly distributed person, weight-wise. If you have people with more mass on one side of their body, if you put it to their height setting, they'll have problems getting back up from that position. The other thing I noticed on this is that my ankle was just being wrenched by this foam thing. And what was happening, this cup here is actually got hard plastic underneath. And it wasn't rotating enough to allow my ankle to go into a neutral position to hang. And it actually, I'm not trying to be over dramatic, my ankle really does hurt. So we'll go into that more a little bit later. But overall, I think the table rotated reasonably well for me. I was able to come out of inversion. You saw me struggle a little bit as I came past the horizontal point. And that's the point where that weight shift happens, where if you carry more weight in your upper body, you're gonna have to get that weight to come back over. A way to cheat that is to set the main shaft longer, but then that causes rotation issues as well. Let's take a look at the teeter item quickly. I'm gonna take the tether strap off this one as well, so we'll do the same full inversion potential, and I'm going to just move this back slightly. So this is set at 6'2", it's got the lumbar bridge, but for the sake of this demo, I will take that out as well. And I got it on the higher foot platform, so I'm gonna have less slide in my ankles. And I'm gonna lift one hand above my head, the other hand, and you can see I can slow my rotation speed and I can come right back up, depending on how I do it. The interesting thing about our product here at the Teeter is that you have these handles that you can use to stretch out at the low angles. Then when you go to the inverted position, you can hang free from the table with a good 4 to 6 inches of clearance, and that allows you to do rotation. I like to pull on here and stretch and rotate. And wiggle my hips clear from the bed. Not contacting the bed is, to me, a key feature of inverting. When you come back up, you just grab your hands put together, spin your hands up, and away you go. You come out of the inverted position. I'll show you the issue I had with the ankle cups because I did not experience it here and I didn't know if it was a sore foot. I've never ridden these tables before, so I'm learning as you're learning here. And with our cups, we allow them to rotate. And with their product, in order to hold this cup on, we put a screw on the end and we have bigger end caps that stop this from sliding off. So if you can't kick to the side and get your foot free, with their item, they put a screw right in the middle. And that screw caused this not to rotate, and it caused this foot platform to dig, the top of the platform to just dig into the top of my foot. And it was extremely uncomfortable. And I would probably never ever be able to invert in this. And I think there's an easy solution, which is maybe take the screw out. But my guess is then what happens is that there's plastic on the top that digs into the top of your foot. So I do want to come back and talk about the cups because there's one thing I would like to check on the Airsoft. But before we do that, let's talk about folding for storage because I think that's a really important feature because you're going to have to move this at some point in your life. You're going to have to store it if you have an extra bedroom and somebody's going to use it and it's been in there. So the instructions for folding these tables are literally pull the pin out of the side and then you fold it. And that's it folded for storage. Probably close that. And I always find it interesting that they don't put more effort into making this thing get into a compact way that you can carry it easier. If you look at the Teeter item, you pull the pin, you throw it in, you over-rotate it, and now you have a nice compact storage. You can put it against the wall, you can pick it up and carry it. Weight-wise, it's easy to manage. The reason you cannot fold this in the same way, and maybe you could fold it by taking this apart, let's play that. See if you can over-rotate this. So you could do that. Yeah, there you go. This wasn't in the manual, but hey, found a new way to store their product. So you can store it in 2 pieces like that, which overall that's a compact design, but you have 2 extra things to worry about now. I've always liked how our Teeter springs out into use as well, where you just step on the A-frame, you flick the handles here, you roll it over, and you're ready to go. Once you lock the spreader arms, you can just hop on and use it. With this storage design, you have to unpack, you got to get this thing over here. Fold it out, rotate it over. It's not the end of the world, but just, oh, I can put the pin back in. Product that we've been working on has a little bit more use and refinement. And at the end of the day, 15 years on, I really feel like you'll appreciate the little details that go into make our product function so smoothly and so effortlessly. Well, the biggest thing that you should be concerned about is what holds your ankles. Is it strong? Is it comfortable? Is it easy to get in and out of? And I'll show you this. This is an old A-frame, or an old main shaft, I'm sorry, from one of our first models. It used our very first design of a heel cup and what's called the foam. So we call this a foam and roller, or cup and roller main shaft. And you can see, you open it like this. It has a lot of the stuff that we have on our products now, except for your feet wrapped around this and these cups went in and rotated. What we tried to do with that design is take the same concept of having that cam lock style. As the weight slides into the cup, it rolls and locks your feet into place, locks your ankles into place. We tried to use that same concept on a new design that had more cushion and more padding. And where I believe we really excel with this item is the fact you have the same cup front and back. You have the same level of comfort front and back, so it's a very, very soft foam. I have one in my hand here so I can take it off and show you. So this is all the plastic we have on it, which is just a back supporting piece. So the rest of it is just a foam cup. And it may not seem like a lot, but this took it like 10 years to develop. And it goes on and perfectly comforts your heel. And you can see it rolls in to support your heel as that camming effect happens. The front one is wide enough that it covers and protects the front of your foot and supports all the way to the top of your foot in a really, really ergonomic, kind of comfortable way. And that's why we call it the Ergo Embrace. They developed what looks like the next iteration of this kind of concept. But when I boarded this and I used it, it literally put pain all through my right foot. And I think that's because of this little screw here. And then, so having the cups free rotate like this, I think would be better than having it locked in a position. But beyond that, I wanted to take this apart and just see what is inside of here. So they have a couple, this is part of what was hitting me at the top of my foot. So they have this little bag system that weaves this on. And now it's like almost like a hoodie top. So then you can pull this out, and that's what was hitting me. So they have essentially a little bit of foam, and these air bubbles, which are kind of a cool idea, but they have no real air in them, so they kind of pack out. But it's this is their issue, that this is what was hitting me in the top of my foot right here, this whole side. So when this is on, it was rotating, and this whole thing was cutting into my foot. So I appreciate their effort to develop a new idea, and oh, it looks like the air pushes from one pocket to another. So this is where you need the most amount of cushioning, because this is where the top of your foot is. And that's what was not, it doesn't look like there's enough air in there. The other one feels the same way. I hope you can tell from this video that we really do care about the products we produce. And at Teeter, you're getting the benefit of all the features we put in this product in your house to help you with your inversion experience and maximize each session. If you have any questions about any component, any product, any feature, or a competitive item, please send through and we'll do our best to answer and review if possible. Thanks for watching.